Some of the most difficult consonant clusters for students of Spanish to pronounce are those that include trilled R. This is perfectly understandable since trilled R alone is one of the trickier sounds for non-natives to pronounce. Subscribers Kara May Hall and Mark Brooks have requested a discussion of N followed by R, and I know that there have been requests for L followed by R, although I can't find them right now. I apologize to whomever requested LR for not remembering who you are. Anyway, since the two topics are so closely related, I decided to put them in the same video. Let's see if we can help you improve your pronunciation of these sound combinations. I'm going to start this discussion by assuming you don't know how to pronounce any of these three Spanish sounds correctly. I have entire videos on each of these on my channel, and I recommend that you watch them to gain a more thorough understanding. But let's do a quick review of these sounds one at a time right now. English L is lower and darker sounding, while Spanish L is higher and brighter. English L resonates more toward the back of the mouth, while Spanish L resonates more toward the front. English L sounds like this, ol, while Spanish L sounds more like this, l. Listen to the difference between these words, pronounced first with a stereotypical English-style pronunciation, and then with more accurate Spanish pronunciation. Observe that Spanish L is a higher and brighter sound than the English version. Alto, alto. Lápiz, lápiz. Leche, leche. El, low, lo. Algo, algo. Solo, solo. Hola, hola. When Spanish N is followed by a consonant, it's pronounced with the same point of articulation as that consonant. Here are some examples. Enviar, confiar, banco, conllevar, once, antes, concha. Spanish trilled R is pronounced by fluttering a spot just on the underside of the tip of the tongue against the gummy ridge above the upper teeth, called the alveolar ridge. Most Spanish teachers say that the tongue position for Spanish trilled R is exactly the same as the tongue position of English D. This is close, but not quite right. Go ahead and pronounce a stereotypical English D sound and pay very close attention to what all the parts of your tongue are doing. D, d, d. Now very gently curl the tip of your tongue back just a couple millimeters so that a spot just barely on the underside of the tip of the tongue is touching the alveolar ridge. This is the tongue position for Spanish trilled R. Then with the tongue very relaxed, produce a vocalization, and as the air passes between the tongue and the alveolar ridge, it produces a trill. Observe these example words. Rápido, carro, rana, rayo, arroz, gorra. Assuming you can trill your R's well, if you're having difficulty pronouncing trilled R preceded by L, I suspect it's at least partly because you're not pronouncing L right. If you pronounce L more like English L, it's harder to transition fluidly to trilled R. Observe these examples of L followed by R, first with L pronounced like English L, and then pronounced like Spanish L. Alrededor, alrededor. El rey, el rey. El ratón, el ratón. El rayo, el rayo. El río, el río. Personally, I find that trilled R is much more difficult to pronounce after English-style L. When L isn't right, I feel like I either have to pause between L and R, or I have to start my trill with a D sound. I think the tongue position of Spanish L leads more naturally into a trill. In order to practice this sound combination, first start by alternating between a drawn-out Spanish L and a drawn-out trilled R with a tiny pause between them. L, r, l, r, l, r. Then eliminate the tiny space so that you transition from one sound to the next. L, r, l, r, l, r. For some of you, this will come fairly easily, but for others it'll take days, weeks, or months of practice. It's easy to become discouraged and very tempting to say, I can't do it, and just quit trying. But those who practice will eventually figure it out and train their mouth to do it. That which we persist in doing becomes easier to do. Not that the nature of the thing has changed, but that our power to do it has increased. Ralph Waldo Emerson. After you've gotten so you can transition from one sound to the next, practice saying words and word pairs like the examples I showed earlier. Alrededor. El rey. El ratón. El rayo. El río. El rabo. El rango. El rabino. El rancho. El rostro. El rábano. El robot. And once you're able to smoothly pronounce these words, begin practicing complete sentences in which this combination appears. Here are some Spanish proverbs and sayings that contain L followed by R. Es peor el remedio que la enfermedad. Chocolate frío, échalo al río. Hablando del rey de Roma, por la puerta se asoma. Cuando el río suena, agua lleva. Por enero florece el romero. No hay boda, bautizo y duelo sin pastel relleno. Cuando marzo vuelve el rabo, queda invierno para rato. Let's take a look at the next combination. Assuming you can trill your R's well, if you're having difficulty pronouncing R preceded by N, again I suspect it's at least partly because you're not pronouncing N right. Keep in mind that Spanish N is pronounced with the same point of articulation as whatever consonant comes after it, so you shouldn't pronounce N in one spot and then have to shift the position of your tongue for trilled R. Instead, make sure to pronounce N with exactly the same tongue position that you're going to use for trilled R. Remember that the tongue position for trilled R is with a spot just barely on the underside of the tongue touching the alveolar ridge. Observe these examples of N followed by R, first with a stereotypical N, then with N with the tongue position of R. Sonreír, sonreír. Enriquecer, enriquecer. Un ratón, un ratón. Un rayo, un rayo. Again, when the N isn't pronounced with the tongue in the right spot, I feel like I either have to pause between N and R, or I have to start my trill with a D sound. In order to practice this sound combination, first find the tongue position for trilled R, then use that tongue position to pronounce N. Alternate between trilled R and N, making sure to use the same tongue position for both. R, n, r, n, r, n. Then eliminate the tiny pause so that you transition smoothly from one sound to the next. If this doesn't come easily to you at first, don't give up. Practice, practice, and practice some more. If you wanted to learn to play the violin, you wouldn't try it for a few seconds and then quit if you didn't get it right. In order to be the best you can be, you need to practice your pronunciation skills the way you would practice a musical instrument. After you've gotten so you can transition from one sound to the next, practice saying word pairs like the examples I showed earlier. Un rey, un ratón, un rayo, un río, un rabo, un rango, un ruso, un rabino, un rancho, un rostro, un rábano, un robot. And once you're able to smoothly pronounce these word pairs, begin practicing complete sentences in which this combination appears. Here are some Spanish sayings that contain N followed by R. Con la honra no se pone la olla. Hay más felicidad en dar que en recibir. Quien roba una vez, roba 10. Se enriquece quien nada saca y mucho mete. Quien a lo suyo se parece, honra merece. Quien roba a quien es ladrón, cuenta ya 100 años de perdón. Gatos viejos hacen ratones tiernos. Alright, this has been our discussion of the consonant clusters LR and NR. If you've learned something from this video, please give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on future content. If you have any questions about the Spanish language, please ask in the comments. I keep a list of all the questions viewers have submitted, and I use it when deciding what video to make next.